Hey, Oz and Lyle M.
That's right. Hey, guys, how are you?
Doing great.
Doing great.
Hey, Oz.
Yeah.
What movie we watching this week?
This week we're watching the movie marriage of A League of Their Own meets Varsity Blues.
Yeah.
With a dash of Footloose and a whole lot of Teen Wolf. This week we're watching Hoosiers.
Teen Wolf.
Teen Wolf. Yeah. There's a lot of basketball in Teen Wolf.
And there's a lot of give the ball to Jimmy.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's true. I forgot his characters. Yeah.
Of course it was Scott Howard in Teen Wolf, but in this it was like, we can't play basketball without him.
Yeah.
We can't win a game without him.
Yeah. Everything rides on Jimmy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's all Jimmy. Even the whole stinking town. It's like, let's have an all-town meeting, and the theme is, you guys suck without Jimmy.
Yeah.
Jimmy goes down to Turf U and we're in big trouble.
Right.
Yeah.
So welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where we take a monthly theme, in this case, month and a half theme.
Yes.
As we are running laps towards the end of Patreon subscriber 1 month 0.5.
Yeah, 1.5 months.
And Curtis, who is our guest this week?
Our guest is mine papa, Patreon subscriber Lyle M, who brought this week's movie Hoosiers to us.
That's right. In the flesh, we've got the Lyle.
Yes. Yeah. In fact, just to drop you a nugget there, Lyle. We will, if you don't tell the story, I'll probably bring it up during the goods later on about when we saw this movie.
Okay. Well, I can tell you right now that Curtis and I saw this movie with my dad in about the same time of the year, April 1987, at the Palo Theater in Lowell, Indiana.
Yep.
We actually went to Hoosier Land to watch the movie Hoosiers.
Ironically, yes, we had to go to Indiana to watch Hoosiers.
Yeah. We did that.
Yeah.
And it was the very first movie that my dad had ever seen in a movie theater.
Wow.
The very first one in his entire life. So the three of us guys went on a field trip to Lowell, Indiana to see the movie, and we stopped for pie on the way home. So
yep, I have a vivid memory of eating pancakes.
Curtis still has the pancake.
I do. I kept it for posterity.
That's right.
It's lodged in his lower intestines.
It's down there somewhere.
It's down there. I refuse to digest it.
It's not coming out.
No, it tries, but no, it's not. That's awesome.
Yeah, I know. Very cool story. One that I have a couple of vivid moments of memory from. I was, I think, too young to remember, the entire evening. But I remember arriving there. I remember a couple of moments from the movie. I remember leaving. And then, of course, I remember stopping at the diner on Route 41.
Yep.
For pancakes and pie.
Yep.
I envision, and I know it's not fair, but with this being the first movie your dad saw in the theater, Lyle, I'm envisioning just this mind-blowing experience. Whoa! Like when they're coming at the camera, and he's all like, "Whoa!"
He had his hands up the whole time to rebound the ball.
Yeah. Why are they so big? So you're like, you've seen movies on television, but this is a big TV.
Yeah.
Look at the size of that thing.
Whoa!
No, very cool moment, and I know it means a lot to you. Every time you tell that story, it brings me back, and I knew that was something, a very special moment, for you and your dad as well.
Yeah.
Getting to experience something new with him. He was, I think, probably in his 60s at that point, right?
Oh yeah, he was in his late 60s. And like I said, it was his first time he had ever been to a movie theater. This type of thing. My mom had just passed away, so it was a good night out with the boys.
I think that's a great story, and we're going to ruin it by talking about this movie in a podcast form. So, I'm glad we started on a high.
Yep, it's all downhill from here.
Right.
Let's get the good story out of the way.
Blah blah blah. Let's talk about the science fiction in this movie. There's no Emmett Walsh, so that's already
Last week, Lyle, I don't know if you've watched it yet. Last week's episode,
I did.
Knives Out, yes,
Yeah.
with also my sibling. I didn't even know if this came up last week. My sibling, Aaron A, and Emmett Walsh was our through line that we established.
Yeah, it was ours, not Aaron's.
No, not her. She wanted no part of it.
Yeah, she was through with it. That's about as through as she got.
I know she kind of threw up her hands at one time.
Yeah, her eye rolls were fueling us at one point.
Yes.
I will say, Oz, before we get too far in, I got mixed up and I did prepare a couple movie.
Yeah,
marriages.
I want to hear your movie marriages because the Let's Talk About Flicks universe, Curtis he lives in abundance. You're never just our 3-2-1s or your 6-4-2s.
Yes, it's like in Kingpin, we do everything times a half.
That's true. You bring the Amish to it, whereas
we bowl 15 frames.
Yeah, and when it comes to movie marriages, you're all about polygamy, so you go for it.
So I had two. I'll share I think what would have been the backup one first.
Okay.
So if it was my week to lead it, my movie marriage would have been Rudy plus Stranger Things.
Okay.
Love and Basketball and Children of the Corn.
Yeah.
Oh, Children of the Corn.
There's a lot of corn in Indiana.
There's a lot of corn.
There's a lot of corn. We saw some corn cribs on camera.
My
other one, the thing that I would have gone with was for this week's movie marriage, we're watching Rudy. This week we're watching Hoosiers.
Right? Yeah, this movie didn't get married.
I was also thinking about going Rudy just with a round ball.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, same state, just a different sport.
I didn't even put that together. It literally is the same state. These movies are like 3 hours apart from each other.
That's true. Have you seen the lacrosse movie that takes place in Indiana? It's great.
Yeah.
And also, the Highlight movie that takes place.
Highlight. Also directed by David Anspaugh.
Exactly.
And music by Jerry Goldsmith.
Starring Gene Hackman as the ball.
As Highlight.
So, we do want to give a shout out to Patreon subscribers Don S, Aaron A, Maida K, Melissa L, and Colin K. Thank you guys for your patronage. You had the opportunity, Aaron and Dawn have joined us thus far, and of course Lyle. But everyone, we give our patrons an opportunity to join us on the episode of the movie that they've chosen. And so far, I think we're actually going to hit more than half.
Yeah. Yes. Rounding out the month next week with Melissa L. She is planning to join us for her choice, which we will reveal at the end of
the show. All right, so. I got the plot this time, and Lyle, you're going to be my color man.
Yeah.
Okay. And so Curtis, who's in this movie?
We've got really Gene Hackman. It's the timing of this episode is pretty coincidental. At the timing of this recording, we're only I think less than a month away from the passing of Gene Hackman. We're in late March 2025.
Yep.
Well. I think we're less than a month of the finding of the passing.
Well, yes, he might have been gone a little longer.
I think he passed a little prior to when he was found.
Yeah, I guess he was partially mummified.
Yeah, his wife was too. Yeah.
So Gene Hackman plays Coach Norman Dale, a disgraced former college basketball coach who after serving a stint in the Navy, has taken a job at a very rural high school in Indiana to teach social science and coach their basketball team.
Yeah.
He's countered his will they won't they the Rachel to his Ross.
Yeah.
This, I'm sure this is going to come up later. Barbara Hershey as Myra Fleener, who was another teacher.
You know what? I'd be pretty bitter if my parents named me Myra Fleener as well.
Myra.
Yeah. If I had to grow up as Myra Fleener, I'd be pretty irritated all the time. I'd go into education just to be vindictive.
Well, her mom was Opal Fleener.
Opal, yes, mom was Opal. That's right.
Yeah,
Opal played by Fern Persons.
Yeah.
I mean, Myra is not too fond of Norman. She's very skeptical of his teaching ability, which I did like. She was the fact that I don't know if she had to give him a hard time, but I think it's right for her to be skeptical about coach first, teacher second, which I'm sure is going to come up later as well. But and then she's actually, and then she transitions to interim principal as the
Yes.
movie goes on as well.
And that's when she breaks all protocol and falls in love.
Yeah.
Like,
That-
I've always
not a-
wanted to have an affair as an administrator.
Not a big HR department
No.
in Hickory High School. We've got playing Wilbur Shooter Flatch. We have Dennis Hopper. He was nominated for an Academy Award for this, for
Yes.
Best Supporting Actor. Although I guess he thought he should have been nominated for Blue Velvet, which also came out.
I saw that
the
as
same
well.
year.
And I could make that argument for it. You know, like,
Yeah.
good year for Dennis Hopper.
Yeah, well, I guess he'd been out of acting for several years. You know, he fought all, you know, substance issues and his own demons, and 1986 was the comeback year of Dennis Hopper,
Yeah.
Velvet and Hoosiers.
They almost cast him in Constantine because of his experience fighting demons.
Yeah. Yeah, he would have played
Almost.
Keanu Reeves.
Almost.
He wouldn't have played Constantine. He would have played Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, it was which of course would have been Emmett Walsh playing blah blah blah.
Yes. Emmett Walsh.
All right, I'm done. So.
Well, something that was interesting with Dennis Hopper is that he had just gotten over his sobriety issues right before they started.
Yeah, I did read that. Yeah.
Which is kind of an interesting standpoint because they had to play the town drunk in this episode. So
They pull him aside and they're like, "Hey, Dennis, you remember all those times where you were drunk?" He's like, "Yeah, I just actually have tried to. We need you to pull those out." Like,
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
We've got a bunch of townies in the movie.
Yeah.
Chelsea Ross plays one of them, just kind of a you know, here and there actor that pops up in things. We've got a great name, Sheb Woolley, as Principal Cletus Subbers. Sheb Woolley, as I was doing my research for this, is known for. Dad, do you know what the Wilhelm scream is?
The Wilhelm.
You would know it. It's
a movie trope. It's a particular sound drop that is used in a lot of movies.
Star Wars, Indiana Jones, like a lot of action films. If someone's falling, they kind of this
Yeah, it's a very
you trust as you heard it.
And the Wilhelm scream traces back to Sheb Woolley.
Yeah. Also the singer-writer of the Flying Purple People Eater.
Yep. Really? Well, I know Sheb Woolley also had a small part in the movie Silverado.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, and
he was one of the cavalry guys when they're at the outpost.
Tarnish his career in this stinker of a film.
And then we get the players. We got all, you know, a bunch of no names, just a bunch of locals that they hired.
Honestly, they weren't named.
They literally, that's why they got parts of the movie.
Anonymous children.
Yeah.
Number 23, number 16.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, Khmer, like.
Yep.
Yeah,
just
no
barcoded.
Names. Yeah.
I will say there was one of them, David Needoff, who played Everett Flatch, Shooter's son, was an actor because he had to do a little bit of acting in Hoosiers, not a considerable amount.
Right.
But he had a little more to his character than the others.
Fair enough.
Yeah, that's the cast, Oz.
The plot of this film is based on a true story of a group of Brazilian miners that were trapped in it. No, I'm kidding.
While underground, they took a basketball.
They started practicing.
It's like that scene. It's like that scene at Airplane where they're overseas trying to, teach the natives how to play. Hands them a basketball, and they're good at it.
They were quite good at it.
Yeah, the old beach basket really worked well.
Very, very linear plot compared to last week's.
Very linear plot.
And so we're in early 50s, like 51, and movie starts out letting you know that we are in rural America.
Oh yeah, we are. Just the opening establishing shots, driving past barns, cornfields.
Not only that, but driving on very straight roads with nothing, like no homes, no. Anyway, you could do that at just 1 mile stretch of road, but So we get Norman Dale, again played by Gene Hackman, showing up in Hickory, Indiana. He's been hired to teach. Which let's just lean into that stereotype. He's been hired to teach history and civics.
Social science teachers and coaching.
It's pretty amazing how whenever a school in America needs a new basketball coach, they always seem to have a social studies or PE spot open.
Yeah.
Always.
Or driver's education.
Or driver's ed, yeah. So
which is typically housed in physical education departments.
Yeah. And so, so old friend who's now the principal, Cletus Summers, hires him to, again, we need a basketball coach, and you're going to do it. Coincidentally, at that same time, the best basketball player in the city of Hickory, which is like 18 people, the best basketball player, Jimmy Chitwood, refuses to play basketball. So there's our like interesting sideline here of we brought in a new coach who's going to turn things around, but our best player is not playing. Are they ever going to, but he left as their previous coach died.
Yeah.
Like
kind of a will they or won't they with Jimmy? Kind of a Ross and Rachel.
We got a Ross and Rachel here.
Jimmy's Ross and basketball is Rachel.
Right. Yeah. So in Gene Hackman's Phoebe.
Yeah. Gene Hackman is the smelly cat.
Yeah, that's right. So, so Jimmy's kind of left out in the wind because his dad is the town drunk, and so the previous coach had kind of played his father figure in a way. And then this coach died, which of course leaves the opening for a new civics and history teacher, and Norman Dale. So we find out immediately that Norman, Coach Dale's got a chip on his shoulder. He is like, which is, it's a bizarre scenario because pretty much, I mean, I used A League of Their Own as in my movie Marriage, just based on how Tom Hanks carries himself. It's my way or the highway kind of theory. But at least in A League of Their Own, like, he kind of stayed a jerk throughout the whole film.
Yeah.
Like really, like, I really didn't get the vibe early on. You don't like Norman Dale because he is just kind of an arrogant jerk. And, kind of looks down on, again, Myra and just, is it Myra? Did I say that right? Yeah, Myra.
Yeah.
But then like, it just kind of goes away. Like once the boys like lean into his style of basketball, even though the townsfolk still aren't quite on board, like it just like, I don't know. I almost put Rocky IV in my movie Marriage.
Yeah.
Because Norman Dale comes to Hickory and Hickory changes. Like, like Stallone goes to Russia and Russia changes. Like one man did it all. Like that's Americana for you.
I mean, Apollo Creed did have that famous cameo in Hoosiers.
He did.
Yeah.
Oh,
they're playing Terhune.
Exactly. I was going to be like, where were all the black guys at Hickory?
Yeah.
He was selling concessions then, wasn't he?
Yeah. And so
while Living in America was played.
Yeah.
And he went up to Jimmy and he goes, I want you.
That's how Jimmy got back to the team.
Yeah.
It was Apollo Creed.
They cut it, but that is how it worked. Like, Gene Hackman dressed as an American flag, lowered from the rafters of the gym.
I'd say luckily the Statue of Liberty was there too to urge him on.
That's true. And so it's not a warm welcome for Norman Dale because Norman Dale has a new way of really anything. He has a new way, and Hickory is stuck in the way we do it. Like, this is just how we do it.
It's like they're stuck in the 50s.
Yeah. He's got a meet and greet with the townspeople.
I'm sure every teacher gets a meet and greet too, not just the basketball.
In the barbershop.
Well, and it's just the men at the barbershop. Is they're basically like, well, this is, I don't remember names, but it's, he's been coaching and this is just how we do it. And he's like, thank you, gentlemen, but I've got this. And they're, you don't quite understand. Like, this is how we do it. And he's like, yeah, okay, well, you guys have a good night.
Yeah. We play zone.
Yeah,
we play zone defense.
We play a zone. So you're just going to do that, right? Myra stops him on the stairs and kind of heckles him a little bit because of his demeanor, and
she grills him.
Yeah, and she just straight tells him, you leave Jimmy alone.
Yeah,
like she doesn't go into a ton of detail. Like we figure, I mean, we see it's
just enough,
just enough to be like, you just leave Jimmy alone. Like he's had a rough time. Again, dad's the town drunk. His father figure coach just died. And so she's taken him under her wing. He's got a way out of Hickory. Like he's a smart kid. He's got a way out. So her motive in this is to be that roadblock to keep Jimmy out of basketball so we could focus on his studies and get out of Hickory.
Yeah.
Even despite the fact that he's like the king of Hickory.
It really is.
Yeah.
There's grown men just bowing basically to Jimmy on his every whim.
Yeah.
So we get to the first practice and we've got 7 players. Actually, we've got like 6 players and the team manager that he has to practice just to help him out. And Buddy is just it's obviously it just felt very forced here because it's like, he's just completely ignoring Coach and just talking to Whit. It's like basically quit talking while I'm coaching. It was, just, what are you gonna do about it?
Yeah.
So he just kicks him out. You're gone. Get out of here. And well, come on, Whit.
Yeah,
and
just
Whit's
bullies him into going.
Yeah, bullies him into going. So we're left with 5.
Yeah,
we're left
fly
with
the
5.
chicken coop. They're gonna fly the chicken coop.
So we got Raid, Merle, Everett, Strap, and Ollie. Ollie, the equipment manager, who now you're on the team, buddy. You have to be.
Yeah.
Instructs them and like there are a lot of really cool basketball messages out of this movie.
Yeah.
But living in a rural town, like this is a 1951 chronological timeline movie made in 86, and here we are in 2025, and like this movie is still like the visual Bible of rural basketball. It's just all right. We've got we got a team full of kids, and we're not even picking up a basketball this practice, which there's a lot of fundamentals that should be learned, and it's not just all shooting.
Yeah.
If you only got 5 guys in the team, they're playing the whole game, so they better be well conditioned.
Yeah, let's get your endurance up. We're going to learn how to move on defense. We're going to do everything but shoot the basketball. And so that's what's going on with this first practice, which really kind of gave the vibe based on how it was edited that it was several practices. Nope, just still the first one. Later on, Whit comes back to the team with his dad, basically holding him by his earlobe.
Yeah, and the townies were all there first.
Yeah, I was going to say
all the men in town all showed up to check out the practice.
Yeah.
And Dale's just like, practice is closed, gentlemen. Like, you need to leave. Which they're how are we supposed to oogle these young men? Like,
it's
kind of gross. Yeah,
it is kind of gross
because you don't get none of these guys are the dads of these kids. Like, I didn't get that vibe. Other than
was it Roland was the only one?
Roland
was really the only one that was named.
Yeah.
Because there was the mayor and the sheriff.
Well, the preacher, and the preacher's son is Strap.
And the barber, he was there too. Rooster.
Yeah, but it's like, you guys not work? Like,
we're
taking off early today. There's basketball practice. Oh, you're coaching? Nope, just gonna go watch.
Well, that hair could grow another day, says the barber.
Right, it's basketball season. I don't do haircuts in the fall.
Well, it's like these grown men are just living vicariously through these young men on the basketball team. And again, all 3 of us grew up in rural Illinois, and basketball in rural Illinois is a pretty big deal.
Very big deal. Basketball and football both. Very big
let alone and I know in your town football was probably elevated there by basketball, but in the town that Lyle and I grew up in, we weren't big enough to have a football team, so basketball was the sport. Like homecoming was centered around
basketball.
Yeah. And so there we are. So Whit's dad brings him back. It basically apologizes, forces him to apologize, which I thought was a really cool slight turning point in this movie when you saw one of the men in town side with Coach. Yeah. Like, understand that, like, he's got his ways and his principles. If you want to be on the team, you got to play his way.
Well, Roland, the dad, even turns to the other guys and we're like, let's go.
Yeah, let's get out of here.
Yeah.
So I really liked that plus he like towered over these guys.
He did. I mean, his back was to the camera, but he was pounding his fist into his other hand the whole time.
But I mean, it was cool just to be like, let's, just almost that like silent security of like, let's go. Like, it's not our place. Let's go. And so, we move along there. Honestly, the fringe stuff in this movie doesn't ultimately matter. Like, it's all like, you've got this basketball highway, and then you have some slight turnoffs, and some of these detours are like, you have to get off the road and drive 2 miles to a gas station. Like, that's kind of where I feel with like the Myra romance part. Like, it's like, I don't want to veer off my path too far to go search that out.
Yeah, the movie clocks in at just under 2 hours.
Yeah.
And according to the trivia and everything, that there was a director's cut that basically tacked another hour on.
Yeah.
That fleshed out a lot of these, these other like sort of side stories that we get little snippets of but feel incomplete.
Yeah, because Brad was the point guard, and all of a sudden he shows up at this one game. He gets kicked off the team, and all of a sudden he shows up playing.
And then he's back.
He's back.
And at one point, Roland. Oh, sorry, Dad. Go ahead.
And then some of the side issues or the side ideas with Myra Fleener and the coach. Those things, they're all in the background. All of a sudden, hey, they're dating. It's great.
Look at them make out. Right there on the tree line.
Yeah, right along the tree line, right by the hedge trees. Oh my God. Yeah.
Well, it's like she just played hard to get long enough. Like, and Gene Hackman really was making no attempt to get. So I really don't know where that all stemmed from.
Yeah.
Like, you want to make out? You taste like burger.
Maybe the Farmer's Almanac said it was time to start planting.
It's time for planting. And when it goes from planting, you got to do some fertilizing.
Yeah. I see what you did there.
And despite the fact that I'm like fill-in administrator, I still live with my mom and I still help her farm. Like, it's Indiana. So So we get to game time, right? And Hackman, Norman tells the team 4 passes before you shoot every time. We got to spread the offense, open things up, 4 passes before you shoot the ball every time. Season opener, Raid Butcher, just nope. Your game plan's out the window. And he just attacks the hoop and scores some baskets, even though he's having a very good game. There's a message to be learned here. And so Norman Dale benches him for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
And
I said 4 passes.
Yeah, 4 passes. Yeah. You didn't listen. One of the other guys fouls out, which then, Butcher just gets up, starts taking all his warm up. Where are you going? I got to go play. No. Even the ref's like, you only got 4. Like Norman miscounted. One of my guys fouled out. The ref's like, but you only have 4. Yeah, there's 4 bodies out there. I see that. Yeah. My team's on the court.
Norman doesn't recognize prime numbers.
He can't count. That's so. 4 is not a prime number though.
5 is.
True, but okay. I guess I see where you're going there. So, you guys are going to play with 4. And they lose the game. It's embarrassing to them.
Yeah. All that was missing was the townies throwing like tomatoes and cabbages at Coach Dale.
Yeah. And so, there is to watch this movie and really, you don't want to take any educational, coaching, or parenting tips from this film.
Yeah, it's.
For example, the very next game, a pseudo fight breaks out, and one of the other players jabs Coach Norman in the chest, Coach Dale in the chest.
Yeah.
And Raid, who just one game before was anti-coach, apparently has learned his lesson, and he jumps in and defends his coach and fights the player. They both get kicked out. So it's like Coach Dale lives and dies on his tough love and his messages of it's my way or no way. And thankfully, the young men at Hickory are open and willing to receive that message because Raid's
calling a gorilla.
Yeah, you're going to sit here the rest of the
Yeah.
game. And Raid's like, I am now contemplating this is the consequence of my action.
Yeah.
I'm aware of the mistake that I made, and I will no longer no, you're a high school kid. You're going to screw up
Yeah.
over and over and over again.
These kids are fully formed, Oz.
Well, they do. Yeah. So it's like I was just watching and I was like, "Ooh, good thing he learned his lesson in the first game."
Well, he literally did learn his lesson.
Yeah.
The next game out, he's punching guys on the other team to defend his coach.
Yeah, it's you don't talk to my coach that way.
You would have taken that punch better if your coach had sat you.
If you'd have sat the last game, you wouldn't have thought about touching my coach.
But yeah, your point is well taken, Oz. You know, it's this movie feels good.
It feels great. Yeah.
But you know, when you look at some of the lessons here, I know a couple episodes ago we were talking about how, and I won't get into this because I told the story a couple of weeks ago about how I lost my love for playing basketball. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of reasons why, but I had a coach in middle school that was just, you know, he was Norman Dale times Bobby Knight, and it just, it didn't go well and was very intimidating, and it just stole any joy I had for the game away.
Which just proves you weren't cut out to play the game.
Well, maybe if I had punched somebody on the other team, we would have bonded more.
I can only imagine this team. I think the Huskers would have had a much better season if Dale would have just sat all the entire team most of the season.
Yeah, just like they showed up to the games and they start the game.
Yeah,
but then just sit down, because that's how you get respect.
I'm not even going to tell you what lessons you're learning. Just sit.
Yeah, my team's on the floor. Literally, no one is on the floor right now.
They're all just sitting. They're all 7 guys are just sitting contemplating. Like, what lessons you learn?
Merle, get in there.
Right. 1 on 5. Merle learned his lesson, guys. You need to learn a little quicker.
Merle learned fast.
Yeah, I can only imagine they wouldn't have had any issue in the final game if they would have just sat out most.
Just sat everybody.
Yeah.
Well, I think one part that was kind of interesting is when Shooter shows up at the coach's house in the middle of the night, and he knows his background. He knows the team that he coached in college, and he doesn't say anything. He says, "Hey, you got to do what you got to do," you know, that type of thing. Then the next game he shows up where he tells the coach how he should, how he scouted this team and what he should do to win the game. You know, you can make him chuck it from the cheap seats, that kind of stuff. But anyway, then he shows up that game and he's drunk again. So, and it's an embarrassment to his son and the coach and that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, you're right too. And that Shooter was really one of the very few adults in town that didn't judge Norman.
Oh, you're right.
I mean, Shooter definitely had his own demons.
Yeah.
And was probably in one way trying to, get some grace from that. But yeah, I mean, you're right. He was one of the very few people who just let him coach.
Yeah.
Well, and clearly Shooter struggles with confidence. Yeah. And basketball was the one thing he knew.
Yeah.
And
right,
even when he showed up at Dale's drunk, he was still right. Like, I mean, he could speak basketball even in a drunken stupor. And Dale recognized that. Okay, well, thank you, and
that's guy knows the game.
Exactly. Like he, even as a drunken buffoon, he knows basketball way more than any of the other guys who just we run zone. Like that's what we do.
Boys can't handle man to man.
Right. Exactly. And so during that fight, that second game. The principal, who's also the assistant coach, mainly because Dale's run everybody else that was willing to volunteer out. Because Cletus is the only one he could trust. Like the only one that really kind of had his back.
Yeah.
He has a heart attack. And so, that takes him out of the picture, which again leaves an opening for someone to fill in, which, like you said, we get to with Shooter. Norman, like, he's really frustrating the entire community. He's slowing down this defensive style. Like everything Hickory is used to, he's going against. We do find out through some of these little anecdotes that he was a somewhat successful college basketball coach that Bobby knighted on his team and lost his spot. And basically he just went into the basketball shadows for for far too long. After Shooter had stopped by and demonstrated his knowledge of the game, that's when Norman's like, I want you to coach. I want you to be my assistant.
Yeah.
But you got to stay dry. Like, you can't do this.
Mm-hmm.
And so meanwhile, Jimmy Chitwood still does not play basketball.
Yeah.
So, like, Jimmy's dad, Shooter,
it's Everett's dad.
Right. So Everett's dad, Shooter, he gets himself, like, he's part, like, the town drunk is part of the team before the best basketball player in town. And so, so you got to be at all the games, you got to be at all the practice, you got to stay dry. And Shooter's like, okay, I will do my best. You can't get ejected from any more games.
Yeah, that's the deal.
Yeah,
Don't leave me in charge. Like, I'll be the brains. I'll help you there, but do not put me in charge. And then I really had a problem with this one. So Shooter shows up in a suit. He's nervous wreck.
Yeah.
Because
he's sick too.
Yeah. He's going through some withdrawal.
Yeah.
Very next game. Very, very next game. Like, Dale gets himself thrown. He asks the ref to throw him out.
Yeah.
Throw me out. What? Just throw me out. So that Shooter's in charge. Like,
yeah.
It's like
an inspiring way to build confidence.
Well, not only that, but it's like, you just made a deal. I won't get thrown out if you quit. You dry up, and I'll stay, and I'll keep my seat. And then the very next game, you go against your promise. And then when Shooter shows up later to a game drunk, how could you be mad at him? Like, you bailed the first opportunity you had. You backed out on your end of the deal.
Yeah.
And yours was just, don't get thrown out of a game. Like, this is a guy who was battling alcoholism. He's like, you stay dry, quit cold turkey, because I said so. Well, don't get thrown out. Okay, I won't.
Yes, Scout's honor.
Yeah. But again, thankfully, though, Norman Dale is this omniscient, this omnipotent. I really like this movie, but you don't want to pick it apart too much.
I know, Dad. What did you think of that whole sequence between Norman and Shooter, and if you want to, throw in Everett too?
Yeah.
Well, the relationship. Part of the movie is the relationship between fathers and sons, and Shooter and Everett was one, and then really Jimmy and the coach is another one.
Yeah.
And part of the coach's idea was to give Shooter some respect from his son, and that's why he contrived this idea, right, wrong, or indifferent, that he should try coach the team. He'll get out of the way and let him do this. And in that scene, where in the huddle, it's the son that initiates the action with the father, because his dad, Shooter's just freezing. He doesn't know what to do. But the son says, hey, you think number 4 is going to take the last shot, that type of thing. Yeah. And that gives him a little confidence to bring out his basketball knowledge that he can share with the team.
Yeah.
And then they steal the ball, and he gets another timeout, and then he calls the play, the picket fence.
Then he's ready. Yeah.
And then he makes a little joke, don't get caught watching the paint dry. So that's the whole thing, is to boost his confidence.
Yeah. which thankfully happened in about 35 seconds.
Yeah.
Shooter has been neglected by the community for years, and all he needed was about a minute and a half of game time, and I've got it back.
Crack it,
Shooter.
Well, I will say Everett after that game even pulls Shooter aside, just says, "You did good, Pop."
Yeah. It was a cool moment. It really was.
Relationship solved.
Yeah. Yep. It's all behind us. We're all good now.
And if you
Let's
look
go
closely,
to Denny's.
George, who was the first coach, before Dale shows up, even George pats him on the back on the way off the floor. So that's like a sign that he's got total acceptance now.
Yeah, water under the bridge. You know what?
Basketball heals all
exactly.
wounds.
Yeah.
You didn't lose the game, Shooter, so you're okay by me.
Yeah.
I'll buy a drink.
It's a beef jerky to go.
Yeah, having O'Doul's. But yeah, it is. It's just like, as long as you don't screw up what's on the court, we're okay.
Yeah.
That must be where Myra came from too, because she's just like, all we need is another coach, but he's always winning and he's hunky.
Well, speaking of Myra and basketball, I guess her mom Opal is a huge basketball fan too.
Of course, she's a big
and
fan.
because of that, and just because the town is so small, like Myra kind of gets sucked into all of this as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Lyle.
Myra made a comment earlier in the movie that that basketball players are gods, even though they're 35 years old, and and they have this discussion with that from putting a leather ball in an iron hoop.
That means a lot to these people.
The gods come pretty cheap, was a comment.
Right.
That's really the identity of the town and the identity of the town's people. They hang their hat on the local basketball team. The ups and the downs, and it impacts. It's a part of their lives. Like, it's not just a hobby. It's not just
it's the lifeblood of this community.
It's not just bringing people together. It is the identity of this town.
Without high school basketball, we have nothing to do.
And then really, it's the passion of the entire state of Indiana, especially like in that era and that time. That's all I had.
So as the games tick away, I mean, it's just game after game, and it's more, the team's coming together. You start hearing Sweet Georgia Brown music a little more often. You're spinning fingers and throwing buckets of confetti into the crowd. Like, it really,
Witt's making half-court shots between his legs.
I almost put basketball on my movie.
Basketball,
just based on some of this montage stuff.
Yeah.
Another great movie.
I mean, Yasmin Bleeth did have a small role in this movie too.
Yeah. She did. Yeah. She played
but best just leave that one.
Yeah, we'll leave that one there. Yeah. And so, we get a point where just like the town is sick of Norman. Yeah. Right? Like,
this isn't how we do things.
Because, he's led to success, but this is when the community uncovers this. Oh, you hit one of your players when you used to coach. Like, you coach college ball, you hit a player. We need to have a town meeting, and we need to discuss whether or not he stays or he goes.
A literal referendum on whether or not to keep the basketball coach.
Yeah, and the entire town is there.
Everybody shows up. Everybody.
Yeah. And this is where we get our Hogan and Macho Man moment of the mega powers forming. As despite all of this, the growing success on the court and the buy-in from the players, and even just people are kind of maybe, but like Myra, who she has this information, she shows up, she speaks at this meeting, she's gonna out him. Like, that was the original plan. And she changes her mind and says, we need to give him another we need to give him another chance. He's good for these boys. We need to give him another chance. The town decides, nope, get him out of here. Like,
Norman even says at one point, I apologize for nothing.
Yeah.
Like, Norman is a very proud person.
Very proud. Yeah, there's a lot of ego here for a guy who's made a few mistakes in his past. And so the whole town's ready. They're ready to run him out. They've got their pitchforks ready and their torches. They're ready to
run him out on a rail.
Let's chase him to the windmill. Let's
up
get
the
rid of this.
Line. Up the Ronan line.
Yeah. Let's get him. Thankfully, the God among men shows up at this meeting.
I literally typed in my notes, as ballots are distributed, basketball Jesus in all caps walks in.
Yeah, Jesus Shuttleworth shows up. Jimmy Chitwood arrives to the podium, and he's got like 3 lines in the entire movie, and one of them comes here.
Yeah.
And he basically says, I'll play if coach stays.
Yeah.
And everyone rips up their ballots, and they're like, hooray! Like, Jimmy saves the day. Like, and
all is forgiven.
Yep, it's totally fine. Totally fine, because it's going to improve our basketball prospects.
Yep.
We do see several times throughout the movie, Jimmy's shooting baskets outside. Jimmy's watching practice from the wings. Like, he wants to be there, like, because he loves the game, obviously. So after Jimmy says his little speech, everybody votes again, and miraculously, we got to keep Coach Dale.
Yeah,
because Jimmy wants to play.
It's like a modern day NIL kind of thing.
A little bit. I think it'd been funny if Jimmy just sucked. But he's the only boy that doesn't play basketball, and so they want to rally around the only kid who doesn't play.
His first shot in his first game back, he's like pushing it with 2 hands from his chest.
It's like those viral videos where the other team just quits and they'll get the rebound. No matter who gets the rebound, and they just keep passing it to Jimmy so he could shoot 35 times in a row before he makes one and then runs down the court all happy.
At the time of this recording, I think I exchanged texts with each of you this morning, respectively, about last night's Bulls game.
Oh yeah,
yeah. The Bulls had a home game against the Lakers, and they were down by 5. With literally 10 seconds left.
12.6 seconds.
Yeah, Patrick Williams makes a 3, steal the inbound. Kobe White makes a 3. So Austin Reeves puts in a layup on the other end, no timeouts, and then Giddey makes the half quarter.
Yeah. Unbelievable. And LeBron was in his face when he...
hand in his face from half court.
Yeah, LeBron was in Giddey's face, LeBron was in Kobe White's face, and LeBron was the one that inbounded the ball that got stolen.
Yeah.
So LeBron sucks.
Yeah.
There's one takeaway from this: the cardiac Bulls.
That's the takeaway.
Are better than the Lakers.
Yes, and that LeBron James is the worst basketball player in not just NBA history, but just anyone who's ever touched a basketball.
To be fair, you play as long as he does, you're going to have the stats he has. I mean, you or I could have generated those statistics.
That's the equivalency there.
Yeah, anybody could have done it. He just won't give it up.
Lyle, I'm going to put you on the spot. Jordan or LeBron?
Jordan. No question.
What's the difference?
Titles, MVP. You know, he would win like NBA Player of the Week for 8-9 consecutive weeks and stuff. And just to watch him play, I saw him play live one time with your uncles at the old Chicago Stadium. We had seats on the baseline.
Jordan used to play against your uncles. That's cool.
Yeah.
A
lot of horse.
I watched Jordan play once with your uncles.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
I mean, he was a man of the people.
Yeah. My brothers Wilt and then yeah. And but our seats were right there in the baseline. We could just see him play, and he was just like so much better than the other guys. His leaping ability and his shooting ability, but the main thing was his competitiveness. You know, nobody's going to beat him. Nobody's going to be it.
I think that's the difference between Jordan and LeBron. Like LeBron clearly is the better physical specimen.
And honestly,
he's a tight end playing basketball.
Yeah, and
he's 6'8", 250.
And I think LeBron's a better teammate. Like,
I mean, Jordan is a sociopath.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
His competitiveness drove him to that. You know, the guys,
like I mean, I really think there's clinical issues there.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
But like in this particular microcosm, it made the person with that God-given talent into the greatest of all time.
Yeah, he would have been a great serial killer too if given the opportunity.
we laugh and joke, but
it's like he would have.
He would have been the greatest of all time serial killers.
But thankfully, that's the path he set that focus on.
Mm-hmm.
But no, I agree. Like that competitiveness of Jordan and just that, like, I don't know, like
it's just there's an instinct there, and I take nothing away from LeBron. LeBron is clearly the second best player in history, and like again, just his physical talents. He's a better shooter than Jordan. He's a better 3-point shooter. You could argue he's a better passer. You know, he could play 1 through 5. On the floor.
Yeah.
But it's that edge, that edge that gives Jordan the edge.
Right.
And again, you know, I watched a lot more NBA in those days when Jordan was playing, obviously, because of the Bulls. But, you know, there's Larry Bird, and there was Barkley, and those guys. And you look at the Dream Team players that were there. And so it was really a different era. And that's why I think the competitiveness, the overall play was better than what it is now. And this
I don't know. Yeah, I'll be quick with this because we're quickly becoming, let's talk about basketball. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know if I would agree better. It was a different game.
And honestly, I think the combination of like Nowitzki and Curry really changed how the game's played now.
I would agree with that. You know, with Dirk being the big guy who could play from the inside or the outside,
stretch big, and
the 3-point shot for Curry.
Mm-hmm.
You know that.
Oh yeah, like that's and I mean, and that's just common sense. 3's more than 2, so let's shoot more 3s. But man, you know, you could. And not taking anything away from LeBron, but I think Curry has had more of an impact on basketball than LeBron has.
I would agree with that from how they've impacted the game.
The entire game has changed globally, especially here in America. You know, like I've coached basketball on and off. I've never ever heard a kid say LeBron. You know, it's always Curry. And before that, it was Kobe. Like, you just, you know, and so...
and before that, it was Judd Bushler.
Exactly. Rick Smits. Like...
Will Purdue.
Yeah. That was it. Before Curry and Kobe, all they hollered out was white guys.
That's all it was. Yeah. It was just white bench players.
Yeah, right. But...
Detlef.
Scalabrine.
Scalabrine.
But no, I do. I put LeBron as, again, number 2, Jordan number 1. But I would say LeBron's career arc has been more Karl Malone than it has been Michael Jordan.
Just the longevity.
The stat padding, and I'm really good at a lot of things, but but I'm not changing the world with any one of them, you know, like, and just even the intangibles, like, you know, like Jordan's was, I'm not going to lose this game. Yeah. And you know what? He didn't. Like, yes, there was you could talk a difference of eras, obviously a much more physical game for Jordan. Yeah. It's like, you know, and so I don't want to get into the whole, like, you watch some of these replays of LeBron not getting touched yet throwing himself to the ground, and it's like there's just certain demeanors of LeBron that just look goofy in replays.
Yeah.
You know, where, you know, Jordan is like, he's getting up and wiping blood off his face, and LeBron's throwing a temper tantrum because the ref didn't give him the timeout he called. You know, just little things like that. But it is what it is. Like, but no, I agree with you, Lyle. I think Jordan, he's just more fun to watch. Like, LeBron to me is like, peak LeBron is a freight train with a basketball. Yeah. You know, and Jordan was, you don't see the heroic acrobatic stuff out of LeBron that you did with Jordan.
If Jordan wanted to take control of a game, he would impose his will on the other team, and he would just take control of the game.
Oh yeah. And I just, maybe it'll come later, but you scroll through TikTok or YouTube Shorts or whatever, and you get these fun little anecdotes. And the older era, you'll get the anecdotes about what Larry used to do to guys. Mm-hmm. And now some of, your Kevin Garnett's, those that are retired somewhat more recently, they were young when Jordan played. So you're hearing their anecdotes about Jordan, where even the other team is like, don't trash talk him. Like, shut up.
Don't give him a reason.
Yeah, we're actually in this game right now. Shut up. And these young guys will run their mouth, and then Jordan rattles off
done.
15 straight, and the game's over. Like, and there's I don't know. And not that that's the be all end all, but I don't know if we're ever going to hear those stories about LeBron. You know what I mean? About just, you don't want to make him mad because he's out there playing his game. And I don't know. I was a big LeBron fan before he became the biggest LeBron fan. You know, when he pulled the going to South Beach stunt, that for me,
I know he regrets doing that.
Right. Yeah. But to me, that was like he became a brand around that time.
It's a much different media landscape.
Oh, of course,
between the two players as well. And
and I like a modest guy. Everybody knew Jordan was the best, but he never, very, very rarely anyway, would he address.
At least not publicly. Privately, he'd make sure.
Which is fine. But again, like he knew how to play the media of like, I'm not going to sit here and tell you I'm the best basketball player in the world. Whereas LeBron, over the course of his career, like give him an opportunity to tell you, he'll tell you. Like, I'm the best. I'm the greatest. And It is what it is. So,
speaking of the greatest, basketball
exactly.
Jesus Jimmy.
Exactly. Jimmy joins the team. The Huskers start rattling off more and more wins, and that's all they needed. Like they were okay. Jimmy apparently, at least off screen, but he needed no practice time.
Nope.
Right
in. He just instinctively knew the offense.
He knew it. He knew what to do because he's like, I haven't had a basketball in weeks, so I know exactly how this offense works.
Fully conditioned.
There's one scene where he peeks into practice. He's watching.
That's true. That's all he needed.
He probably picked it up right there.
Photographic memory. Like, I know the offense. All 5 guys stand around coach, break. Like, I know that offense.
Hey, pass 4 times, then
just blah, 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 blah. Pass 4 times, give it to me, and I'll score. So they start winning. And when this team wins, all's well. Like, townsfolk, shooter, everybody's valued. Like, again, Norman's getting kicked out of games. Nobody cares. But yeah, so Jimmy's back on the team. I may be out of sequence in some of this, but whatever.
There's one scene that's really interesting. It's when they're playing. It's all this whole sequence, and the music is playing and driving, and they're winning and all this. There's one scene where it cuts to Norman Dale and Shooter sitting on the bench, and they're both laughing hilariously.
Yeah.
And the truth, and you think, oh, they're having such a great time because the team is winning. In reality, what they were talking about is that Hackman turned to Dennis Hopper and he said, I hope you well invested because both of us are never going to work in this town again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Gene Hackman was awful behind the scenes.
Yeah, he hated being on this set.
Yeah.
Hated it.
And he made sure everybody knew it.
Right. Oh, yeah. Like which you hate hearing that because you kind of get this, like, oh, Hackman, he's a great professional actor.
He comes across, as the professional kind of everyman actor. Yeah. But then, like, he's the one throwing the temper tantrum.
Yeah, like he was read as this movie is going to ruin my career.
Yeah.
And he was willing to take the movie down with him. But then, like, after he watched, like, a rough cut of it, I guess he went to the director, was like, how'd you do that?
Yeah.
How did you make that movie out? I'm like, well, Gene, you didn't give us a whole lot to work with. So we were, remember when I said I cut an hour out of this film? You're why. I
heard that he also gave the director a panic attack.
Yeah, I read that.
I read that as well.
Yeah, so Gene Hackman, great guy.
Danville, Illinois' own Gene Hackman.
Yeah. He was channeling his inner Norman Dale. So go ahead.
I think we're in like the semifinals now at this point.
Yeah. Well, and that was kind of hard to follow through this on where they were in the season. Like obviously basketball seasons are long. You're not going to show us every game of the season, but it was tough to keep track. Like aside from the newspapers cut throughs, like, is this team any good? Like, are they winning the games we're not seeing? Because we've only seen like 4. Shooter has a relapse, but that's okay. Like, because they're winning, so it's totally
he's
fine.
Hospitalized, but they're winning.
Yeah, I like how they touched on Dennis Hopper personally, because originally they were going to let Shooter was going to check himself out of rehab and show up at the state tournament. And he was like, nope, you can't do that, because if you let Shooter do this, that just minimizes this addiction, this alcoholism that he has.
And the treatment.
You can't just do that. Trust me, I'm Dennis Hopper. Like, I know from experience.
I know addiction.
Everybody gets a chance to shine. Ollie shows up and hits a couple of big free throws. Strap, after he finishes praying, he contributes, and they reach the championship. And really cool. I wouldn't be surprised if it's the most quoted coach to player quotation from this movie when they walk into the state tournament, and it's the biggest gym they've ever been in.
Butler Fieldhouse. Lyle, you would have described what happens here?
Oh, and they walk into, and they get out the measuring tape.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then they said, hey, measure the free throw from there to there. And it says, what is it? Oh, from the rim down, it's 10 feet. You'll find the exact same measurements in our gym in Hickory.
Yeah.
So,
and so, again, I'm sure there have been hundreds of coaches across from 86 on that have given that speech
across rural Midwest.
Exactly. Hundreds of coaches have probably, like, their team makes the state. They win like the sectional finals or super sectionals or whatever, and that coach is like calling his wife. He's like, "Pack my measuring tape. Like, we're going to the dance.
that tape better be in there. Right. I got nothing else. Right. Nothing.
If I can't use my tape, what am I going to do?
Oh, damn, it's a yardstick. Oh,
yeah, we're one of the top 4 teams in the state, but I can't motivate them with that. I got to have a measuring tape."
Don't give me any of that centimeter garbage.
Right, like Ace Hardwares across the Midwest are stocking up on measuring tapes right before the state final.
Basketball season.
It's basketball season.
We're gonna get flooded with high school coaches.
He's gonna give them the Dale. And so just to really showcase what we're dealing with here, we've got this very small 8-man team of white boys versus Indianapolis black boys. Like,
that might also come up later.
Yeah. And so, or not Indianapolis, South Bend.
South Bend Central. Yeah.
Yep. South Bend Central Bears. They're taller. They're more athletic. Their skin's darker. Like, come on, movie. Like, we get it. Like, the only team that can beat these white boys are black. Like, I mean, it's just,
and it has to be, like, from, I mean, not that South Bend is enormous, but it's still much
urban.
It's more I was just going to say, like, using this word very loosely, much more urban, at least as compared to Hickory.
Exactly. Well, I think our local stoplight in town is more urban than Hickory, and we only have one stoplight.
You got one stoplight, though.
We have one.
Our hometown has 0.
Yeah. And so they, Hickory, they fight back. They tie the game. A few seconds left. Norman calls a shot, and basically it's going to be, Jimmy, they're going to be queuing on you. We're going to use you as decoy. Merle, you're taking the last shot because we got to win. Everybody on the team is suddenly uncomfortable with what coach has
Everybody's
to say.
body language just drops.
They're like, oh, but WWJD. Like, what would Jimmy do?
What would Jimmy do? Jesus, I mean, Jimmy.
Yeah, and Jimmy just looks at coach, and of course, Norman's like, what's wrong? What's wrong with you guys? And Jimmy's like, says his other line in the movie, I'll make it. Like, okay. Norman's like, okay.
At the top of the key. Get out of his way.
That's right. Don't run an offense. All those things I told you all season long. 4 passes, slow defense.
There better be. You're going to pass the ball to Jimmy 4 times. Buddy, throw him the ball 4 times.
Yeah. All of that out the window because Jimmy said he's going to make it. So we run a 5 out now. Like, basically. 1 on 5.
That goes back to the 1 on 5.
Exactly. 1 on 5, just like Jimmy's been practicing.
Yeah.
And draws the play up for Jimmy. And, of course, he makes it. They win. It's the smallest school ever to win an Indiana State championship. Cut to, like, their 8x10 black and white picture on the wall. They're all standing around as we get Gene Hackman, talking over, the group. And he just tells them, I love you guys. And that's Hoosiers, because that's really what this was about. He loved these boys.
Yes, they love basketball. They love each other.
Not unconditionally, by his conditions. I only love you if you perform the way I want you to.
If you pass the ball 4 times, then you have my love.
Yep. Move your feet on defense and get the ball to Jimmy, and you have my love.
Yeah.
Thanks, Coach.
Dad, before we get into our bits here, do you have just like your final kind of take on Hoosiers, like what it means to you?
Well, growing up in that era, again, there's a passion for like small school basketball. Because I remember there's scenes in Hoosiers where you see this line of cars following the school bus going to the game. That's not unusual. Because I remember when I was in high school that we would have the same thing. We would have a player's bus and a fan's bus that was just filled with kids that would go to the games, that type of thing, when they provide transportation. So there is a real passion about that. And I remember when your Uncle Marvin was in high school, like in 1962, the team that he had, there was only one tournament in the state. There wasn't any classes. But they played in a tournament, and they beat Chicago Heights Bloom, and they played Joliet Central, and they lost to Joliet Central in overtime. in the regional championship. So that was the kind of fervor that the
Mhm.
team had for that time. And reading about this movie, it's based on this 1954 championship team from Milan, Indiana.
Mhm.
Same thing. And that's what the whole movie was based on. And there's two guys from, I guess, who went to Indiana University, Anspa, and then the other guy's Pizzo or something like that. And they had the idea for this movie. And it was the Bobby Knight era at Indiana. So Normandale was kind of based on how the militaristic Bobby Knight was. And then also they kind of wove into this Milan story. So, and so that's kind of interesting. And there was a cameo by one of the guys that was on the Milan team when the Hercury team pulls a team bus up to Butler Fieldhouse. The guy that goes in, he played on that Milan team. And he says, hey, it's kind of the best thing that's ever happened to Indiana basketball, that kind of deal. So there's a lot of small things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot packed into this movie. And it really is a great feel good kind of story. Yeah. And I know I kind of picked at it a little bit here, but that's what we do is it's not being a great movie doesn't mean it's full of perfect people. And that's really what, some of this is. But at the same time, there are some people out there that look at Normandale and be like, my coach was that way. It changed my life, and that's great. Like, it may not have worked for us but it worked for somebody and perfectly fine.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, hey, at this point in the show, Oz and I each give our own unique rating to the film we've been talking about. In this case, 1986's Hoosiers. Oz, how would you rate this flick?
I'm giving this movie a slam dunk.
Just one slam dunk?
Just one.
Were there any dunks in this movie?
No, they weren't allowed to do that yet. Yeah. But I'm giving it a slam dunk.
One slam dunk.
Yeah. What are you giving it?
I'm gonna give it 8.5 ollies.
Okay.
Like the underhand free throws?
Yep.
Nope. Skateboarding.
Yeah, it's the skateboard technique.
Yep.
8.5 ollies.
All right.
Yeah. All right, next up in our comedy segments, Oz and I have been scouring the interwebs searching for unprofessional reviews that tickle our funny bones, and we hope they tickle yours as well in this segment, Outside Insights. Oz, what is your outside insight?
Mine is from Guy Laforent.
Larry Bird was from French Lick, Indiana.
That's right. This is from Guy.
It's probably Larry Bird as a pseudonym.
It has to be Guy Laforent. It's
probably Guy
Laforent.
Guy Laforent from French Lick, Indiana.
1 out of 5 stars, and it's titled Mon Dieu. It's written April 7th of 2003.
Okay.
This must be the worst, most pathetic film I have seen. I bought this movie because I like Gene Hackman. The movie is boring and slow moving. I've never been to Indiana, and now I am sure I will never wish to go there. The movie is full of drab, dull, lifeless, and bleak scenes. The acting's okay. The music is good. What is so exciting about a school winning a state championship? This happens all the time. Why do they make a movie of this? I highly suggest not purchasing this movie. This movie is a total waste of time and money. I would have rated it with 0 stars, but it would not let me do that.
Oh.
You could have just not rated it.
Yeah.
But
I mean, Gene Hackman never yelled at Kevin Costner once in this movie.
Right. Thank you, Guy.
Guy from French Lick.
Right up as Amazon. What do you got, Curtis?
I'm going to share 2.
Both again. Always, we don't do things in ones here, Lyle.
No. It's just as always from the Internet Movie Database. My first one is a 3 out of 10, left in May 19th, 2023. Left by BK Kaz. I'm assuming that BK stands for British Knights.
Yep.
Almost as idiotic as real basketball. Hoosiers is dumb but accurate. If you've ever had the misfortune of spending any time in the Midwest, you know it's a desolate land of corn and corn pone. Hoosiers captures that pretty accurately, hence 3 stars. It's a shallow redo of Rocky or any number of other sports films about the plucky underdog who has to find the huckleberry gumption to do something really important in life. Like, win a high school basketball championship. Yet this is the town of homely Al Bundys with bad haircuts and houses with silos built next to them. If you get the impression people in Indiana don't have much to live for except high school athletics and maybe going through the motions of evangelical religion, then this movie will just affirm your opinion. As a period piece, it more or less looks like what photos from the era suggest.
All right. What's your second one?
It sounds like someone who grew up in the Midwest, but then like went to college on one of the coasts and never came back.
Yeah. This is totally like a central Indiana hipster.
Yeah. What was it? BK? Was it Bobby Knight?
Maybe it was.
Once he got ousted from Indiana, he's like, "I'll show you."
Yeah.
Let me tell you my thoughts on Hoosiers. Bunch of Al Bundys.
He moved to Portland, Oregon, and became a hipster in Portland. Right.
He's a barista now.
Yeah, he makes a great espresso, Bobby Knight.
That's true. I'll foam your milk.
And
he throws a chair across the Starbucks at you.
He throws your coffee at you.
Yeah.
There's your chair, too.
Yeah, you want a Bobby Knight?
he pokes the customers in the chest.
That's true. What do you want, April?
My other is a 1 out of 10, left in December 16th, 2024. So only a couple months ago at the time of this recording. Left by W. Henry. Snooze fest, Rudy was much better. Rudy, in my opinion, was the superior underdog story with stronger character development. There was no scene in Hoosiers that give me the chills like the crowd chanting, "Rudy, Rudy," did. Plus, Rudy had Vince Vaughn, who rules.
And Charles S. Dutton.
It did have Charles S.
Let's not forget the original Rock.
Yep. Yeah. Alien 3 Zone, Charles S. Dutton.
Charles S. Dutton.
He is good.
Well, hey, folks, it's the point in the show you've all been waiting for. The Let's Talk About Flicks signature segment, the 3-2-1, in which Oz and I will each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and only 1 about this week's movie, Hoosiers. Oz, actually, we'll start with Lyle. Before we get into our respective goods, is there anything from this movie that really stood out, something you really enjoyed or liked?
I really enjoyed the music because I think it kind of sets the tone for this.
Yes.
And honestly, being from the Midwest and from a small town in Illinois, the first 4 minutes, there's not any dialogue, but he's driving through rural Indiana just with the background music. And it kind of sets the tone for it. This is an isolated part of the country that he's going to. So I kind of thought that was pretty cool. And the character development of Shooter, I think, is good. And the relationship between Shooter and his son.
Yeah, Shooter and Everett.
And I think that's also an important thing. So,
yeah.
And overall, the action wasn't bad. The basketball action was fairly good, and you could feel, because of some of the camera work, that you could feel that you're inside playing ball with some of these guys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would agree with that completely.
Yep.
All right, Oz, what are your 3 goods?
First one, the movie, it's a great feel-good story.
Yeah.
They paint that picture very early on that no matter what, this is an underdog team.
Yeah.
And I think that's established in that opening scene with the players when there's only 7 of them. And, down to 5 of them, it's like, it's going to be an underdog team.
Yeah.
Whether they win or lose doesn't matter at that point, because you're already on board with, this is the team I'm with. They're the underdogs. My second is, for a movie that is just a shade under 2 hours with not really a ton of plot, they did a great job of balancing it with a lot of basketball action, like you said, Lyle, that they placed it in there just conveniently enough to move along little bits of story, but also offering up some action in an otherwise actionless film. And my third, and this kind of comes full circle with what we talked about, at the beginning of it, is I really enjoyed watching this movie with my son. Mm-hmm. I popped it in Saturday morning last week before anybody woke up, thinking I'll just get it knocked out. He got up earlier than anticipated. And he's not much of a sit down and watch a movie kind of kid. He's much more of I'd rather play a video game or just whatever. So for him to, get himself on the couch for an hour and a half and just watch the movie, like it just, with him there next to me watching it, is it one that we're like, oh, we're never going to forget this day? No, but at the same time, it was just cool that his first time, because he loves basketball, it's his favorite sport, and his first time watching Hoosiers was for this. And so it was, we don't watch a lot of movies together because he's just not really into that. And so that was a nice third good for me, was got to watch it with my boy. So
that's cool, Az.
That's
what do you got? What do you got, Curtis?
Let's see. I'm gonna go with something that I don't think you and I bring up very often. This movie was the location scouting and the set dressing. I thought was amazing. Like the costuming.
Mm-hmm.
Like again, it was filmed in 1980, or it came out in 1986. Probably filmed in 85. It looked like 1951.
Well, it's like I said last week that when you said 1986's Hoosiers, I looked up. I'm like, I thought for sure this movie was older than that, just based on how it looks. And I knew it wasn't from the 50s, of course, but I thought that this movie was older than mid 80s.
Yeah.
Early 80s, I would have given it, but
I mean, even like the Fleener family farm, like look and feel like you're on a farm in rural Midwest in the early 50s.
Yeah.
They did a great job.
You may not realize this, but he's driving a 1950 Chevrolet in that opening sequence, and your great grandpa Menke had a 1950 Chevrolet with a little spinner on the steering wheel,
the knob,
the knob before power steering, all that kind of stuff, and it was really cool.
He's getting paid pretty well to be driving a 1950 car in 1951. Good for him.
Yeah, he's doing all right.
It's that rural public teacher salary.
A rural basketball coach.
He was a chief petty officer in the Navy. It's that big.
Like Norman Dale walked so that Deion Sanders could run. So I saw he just signed a 5-year, $54 million extension.
I saw the notification. I hadn't read it yet, but I saw it.
How much?
5-year, $54 million.
As a coach?
To coach Colorado football.
Yep.
The often feared Colorado football.
Yeah.
I'm sure he's now the highest paid, publicly paid person in Colorado.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah. It's funny. Like you look at like the highest paid public officials in any state, and I think with like 2 or 3 exceptions, it's all basketball and football coaches.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's all gross. It's all men's basketball.
Correct.
Or
men's basketball, men's football.
Yeah.
So that's my first, is the location scouting, set dressing, costuming. My second is I'm trying not to say anything that you guys said. Let's see. Before the first home game, there's a continuous shot of Norman emerging from the locker room, and he kind of talks to himself. He's at the door about to walk into the gym pregame, and he says, "Welcome to Indiana basketball." And then the camera follows him out onto the court. The crowd is cheering. The players are going through their layup lines. Mm-hmm. Just a really cool shot that, because before, we had seen the practices and we'd heard the townspeople talking about it, but we hadn't seen any game action.
Right.
And so we literally enter the court in the arena with Norman for the first time.
Okay.
So
I like it.
Cool.
Yeah. Like that sequence. And then my last one, with 2 minutes left in the finals of the last game, Hickory's down by, I think, 6 or so. And we'd seen the game action. They started out slow, and then the music picks up, the pace picks up, and they're kind of trading baskets with Hickory making a couple more than South Bend. And so with 2 minutes left, it changes just from the game action with the score to you get the radio play-by-play. And you get the play-by-play announcer calling the game for the last couple of minutes, which I thought added to the intensity and the urgency.
Made it feel more real
and more, and important, and how important this was, and just that little choice to add that in, I thought really, really made that sequence. It took that sequence from being a good sequence to one of the best sports sequences ever filmed.
Fair,
yeah. And what's interesting is that the radio announcer, was a guy named Hilliard Gates. And he also did the announcing for that Milan championship game in 1954 as well. And interesting, he also did a lot of Big Ten games back in the day, especially Indiana games, this type of thing. And when I was younger, you could watch those on the CW and stations like
right,
that.
Yeah.
Cool.
I didn't realize until I didn't look into the director at all. This guy he did a bunch of TV stuff. Hoosiers was his first feature film.
Yeah.
I didn't realize he also directed Rudy.
Yeah.
Yeah. And which, I mean, obviously the parallels are there. But it's that same kind of lightning in a bottle twice as like Rocky and Karate Kid, same director for both movies. It's the same story. It's just let's take it to the other coast and hit with our feet instead of our hands. And
I mean, when Rocky crane kicked Apollo,
right.
That was such a memorable moment.
Wrong movie. But yeah, I didn't realize, and that's honestly that's about all the guy directed.
Yeah,
Hoosiers, Rudy, and then like Two Against Time, Wise Girls. Like,
I think that was the prequel to Mean Girls.
I think it was. Yeah.
Hey, Dad, is there any?
It's got Mira Sorvino and Mariah Carey in it.
Wow, it's got to be a winner then.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
You got the Eminem girls.
Yeah. I remember you were a big fan of Mira Sorvino.
I had a thing for Mira Sorvino after seeing her in Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
Yeah, that was a good one. Yeah. Her dad was a pretty good actor too, Paul Sorvino.
Yeah, Paul Sorvino.
Yeah.
Uncle Lee Trevino was also pretty good too.
Yeah, from Happy Gilmore.
Happy Gilmore's Lee Trevino.
That's right. Did he do anything else?
I he's just in that movie. Played a really good playing a golfer.
Yeah, I think he had a video game or something out.
Yeah, he did.
Hey, there was another shooter, Shooter McGavin.
That's true.
Yep. Shooter McGavin. Yep. I think that character was based after Dennis Hopper.
It was. Totally.
Yeah. From Waterworld, not this movie.
Yeah.
All right, moving over to the bads. Oz, before I throw it to you, Dad, is there anything that you didn't care for or thought that this movie could have done better?
The continuity, all of a sudden, a guy shows up, he's Brad's playing in the first game, all of a sudden he shows up, he's playing after he walks out.
Yeah.
And again, I knew that they had to condense it, this type of thing. And the same thing, the love story between, Normandale and Myra, all of a sudden he's kissing her out in the back 40, so.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I agreed. Continuity was going to be one of the things I mentioned, but now Buddy's back on the team, now, Roland is the assistant coach,
Yeah. So
hey, Oz, what are your two bads?
My first one, and this is just kind of my thing anyway, of just the absolute fear of change that exists in a lot of, not just rural areas. I think it seems more apparent in rural areas because there's not as much going on. So just the fear of change of, this is the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
And because I like this way and I'm used to this way, that's the only way. And
we play zone defense.
Yeah, exactly. And so that fear of change is my first one. And my second is, with the exception really of Ollie, it's pretty hard to tell the boys apart.
It's just a bunch of 5'11" white guys.
Yeah, with pretty short buzz cut type hairdos and so it had been a long time since I'd seen this prior to the rewatch. I knew the movie. I mean, it's Hoosiers, you know the story.
Yeah.
But I wasn't familiar with all the character names. So when I'm watching it with my son and he's trying to peg who's who, I don't know, buddy. Even the savior, Jimmy, is easily confused with some of the other guys. I mean, it's so we got to the point where we were really paying attention to whose numbers.
I know that's when growing up, that's how I learned the characters too, was I memorized their numbers and then I got the names and faces with it. And
so that's my second bad, is that for a first time viewer or a long time since you viewed it last, it can be difficult to keep track of who's who, especially when you have Jimmy and Everett specifically looking so similar and having their own subplots with Shooter, and then Jimmy Myra doesn't want me to play. It's there's more going on in those characters' lives. For them to be that easy to confuse was just didn't take you out of it, but it was like, well,
Yeah.
just root for the white kid. Like he'll make it work. So those are my two bads. What you got, Curtis?
A lot of might have come up already. The continuity errors definitely was one. The movie overall, I guess my first bad, it is pretty schmaltzy and sentimental. It's again, as you said with one of your goods, this movie feels great. It is the definition of a feel good movie.
Well, I think it's painted that way because, and I almost had this in a hub, but I changed it. There's no antagonist in this film.
Yeah.
They're
losing is the antagonist.
Yeah, exactly. Just losing.
Yeah.
Like there's no team we need to beat. There's just
there's no evil bad guys.
Yeah. It's
you don't have the Yankees at the end like in Major League.
Right. And honestly, Rudy's the same way.
Mm-hmm.
It's there. So it feels good because exactly. You have no choice whose side you're on.
Yeah.
You're on their side, and so
yeah, so it's pretty predictable.
Yeah, because one of my huns was going to be like, who's the bad guy? Like,
yeah,
like you're the underdog. Well, who's the overdog? Like, what mountain are you trying to top here, other than just Indiana State basketball?
Yeah.
So anyway, go ahead. Sorry.
So I guess that's my first bad. Is it's pretty schmaltzy, sentimental.
Oh, yeah.
My second, I got a couple. I'm going to kind of combine a couple here. As you can call it whatever you want to call it. Just the adults and like teachers who go into teaching just so they can coach.
Mm-hmm.
We kind of talked about a little bit before, like the stereotype of, if you teach social science or PE, you're going to be a coach, or if you coach, you're going to teach PE or social science. Like,
right.
Like, and I know you've worked with them. I definitely have worked with them.
Yep.
Teachers who were there to coach.
Yep.
And education is clearly secondary to what they do.
Their work starts at 3.
Yeah. And they spend part of their professional day game planning.
Yep.
We have, I don't want to get too specific here, but like we have a support period in our day, and I've known coaches will pull kids out of the support period to game plan and watch tape and do stuff like that. Yeah, it's just gross. I know sometimes I get frustrated, when I see, like headlines in the sports section of the local paper, like, oh, so such and such high school just hired a new basketball coach for next year.
Yeah, big deal. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, what's that person teaching?
Right. Yeah, doesn't matter. Yeah, doesn't matter.
Or how coaches will get shoehorned into certain positions.
Yep.
Well, I guess he's got to educate somewhere. So
right.
Yeah, it's gross. And again, that's taking nothing away. There's great coaches out there who are also great educators, great educators who are coaches. But it's the coach first, educate second. Yeah. That's my other bad.
Yep, I get you.
All right. How about a Lyle, was there anything that any thing that just confused you walking away from the movie?
Being a first-time viewer.
Yeah.
I always, going back to the continuity thing,
Yeah.
I was always concerned, well, how in the hell did Buddy get back on the team and all of a sudden he's a starting point guard?
Yeah.
When they're playing Cedar Knob, that was the Hunt thing. And I guess that's probably the main thing.
Yeah.
And it's just those continuity issues. And then again, that came from being cut out from a 3-hour movie down to
it did. Yeah, I did read the trivia that they did film that Buddy coming back to the team, but again, it got cut for pacing reasons.
Yeah.
Well, we needed to make sure we got Myra in her makeout scene.
She's hot.
Barbara Hershey didn't sign up to. She put her foot down on that one. Cut what you want, but let me kiss Gene Hackman.
If it was contractually, she got one good smooch.
I didn't sign up.
I didn't sign up to act in this movie. I signed up to kiss Gene Hackman.
Come on, that's what you promised me.
Barbara Hershey was never in a lot of movies. She was in quite a few, but never in a lot blockbuster type movies.
Yeah,
but she was always a pretty good actress. That's why I was kind of maybe my aha moment is I was kind of surprised when she was cast as the love interest in this movie because she was well known, but in a movie of this type, I how'd you get in there?
Sure. Yeah, I'd agree with that. I also would say I think, and correct me if you have a different take on this, Lyle. I think Buddy was the second best player on the team.
Yeah.
After Jimmy, I think Buddy. He was their best on-ball defender.
Yeah.
He ran points.
Yeah. He drew the defensive assignments all the time.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Merrill, I think. He was the inspirational guy on the team.
Yeah.
Like when Ollie was shooting the free throws, he tells him, okay, hits him on the rear and says, concentrate on what you're doing. So he was the inspirational guy. And the one scene I liked was when Strap was shooting in the championship or the regional semifinal game or final game. And he's just throwing up shit shots and they're all going in, and it's like, praise the Lord.
Yeah.
So.
You had the dump button ready there, right, Oz?
Yep.
Sorry about that.
It's all right. If anybody's still listening at the hour and a half mark, that's your freebie.
Yeah, the censors usually tune us out at 60 minutes in.
This is like final skit of SNL time.
That's right, where nobody cares.
Anything goes at this point.
Everybody's going to bed. Yep.
Oz, what's your
I may have missed it, but did Norman Dale get a discharge from the Navy to go coach Indiana basketball?
Yeah. He'd been in the water for 10 years.
I know. They made some comments about how they, pulled him off the ship, et cetera, et cetera. So I was like, so how did you just tell him you're going to leave? Like, how does one leave the Navy?
They're about to ship him off to Korea, but then this opportunity came
right.
up.
It's like, guys, like my buddy from high school called. Get this. He wants me to coach basketball. Where? Indiana? Oh, well, you are honorably discharged, sir.
Yes, thank you, General.
That is a noble position you have. You know what? If you have room on your staff for me, I would be honored to sit on your bench. So that's my is did he get discharged from the Navy to go coach high school basketball in Indiana?
I'd like to think so.
And again, I'm thinking maybe I missed that somewhere that that he but I'm like, even if I didn't, that's still
maybe he got himself dishonorably discharged as quickly as possible.
Right. Yeah. He pulled a Bobby Knight and started throwing chairs at people.
Yeah. He punched the admiral.
Yeah. David Robinson was on that Navy ship.
Yeah, the Admiral David Robinson. He was in the Navy.
He was, I know.
Yeah. He was.
Wow.
Gene Hackman punched David Robinson to get into
David
this
Robinson,
movie. So that's my home. What's your home?
Oh, I'm just going back to a basketball moment. Everybody knew Jimmy was going to take the last shot. And when I say, I mean, in character, in canon, everybody knew Jimmy was going to take the last shot. They weren't going to give it to Merle.
No.
Why didn't South Bend double Jimmy?
Oh,
why did they not run a second defender at him?
Because it's 1951. Nobody doubled up on anyone yet. There's no 3-point line. There's no dunking. And they're running a zone. Do not double team.
Yeah, it's either zone or man-to-man. You can't do both.
No, you can't.
It's not
you're right, though.
Not the gentlemanly way to play. So.
Right. That would have definitely put a different twist if I'll make it. And then they double Jimmy. He gets a shot blocked. They lose.
He just curls up in a ball.
They run him out of town.
Up the Monon line.
You beat me to it. Up the Monon line. Yeah. So that's my hump. Why didn't they double Jimmy? Run another defender at him. Get the ball out of his hands. Make somebody else take the last shot.
Because it's a movie and they had to win. They probably did double him, but he just jumped 8 feet in the air.
He did. That's Jimmy Chitwood, known for his vertical.
That's true. Yeah, it's one of the white boys from Indiana. They can hop.
He's got a 56-inch vertical.
Jumping Jimmy Chitwood.
Well, hey, Lyle, this has been great.
Yes.
We're definitely running long on this one, which I totally expected us to run long on this one.
What do we got next week?
Next week, as we
wrap up.
As we conclude Patreon subscriber month and a half, we are turning back to Melissa L. And she is, we're going to stick in the same decade, a couple years earlier. We are going to a puppet party, Oz, and we are going to watch The Great Muppet Caper.
First time viewing for me.
with Patreon subscriber Melissa L. It is a silly, fun movie.
Oh, it's the Muppets. I'm sure it is. So
I will just say you will love. Oh my God, I'm now blanking on his name. He's in Clifford.
Oh, Charles Grodin.
Charles Grodin, yeah. You will love Charles Grodin. Charles Grodin is amazing in this movie.
I'm looking forward to it already.
Dan, have you seen The Great Muppet Caper?
Yeah, it's been a long time ago.
Sure.
Long time ago. Yeah.
It was. I think it was the second movie your dad ever saw in the theater, wasn't it? You took him to see The Great Muppet Caper.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember
It was actually a double
Gonzo.
feature.
Yeah,
I remember Gonzo. Yeah.
Gonzo, yes.
But no, I'm looking for, again, never seen it. Looking forward to watching it.
Yes, I know Melissa L is very excited to be on with us. She's preparing all the comedy bits. I think except Outside Insights.
Well, and she didn't switch to take Cabin Boy from us. So.
She did not. We had that discussion, but yeah, she was a little paranoid that we were going to take Cabin Boy, but it's still out there in the ether.
We'll get it. So we will take it from her clutches.
Lyle, thank you for joining us this week.
It's been
thank
great,
you for being a loyal Patreon.
Yep, you're welcome.
Yeah, and again, just for coming full circle in the episode, just sharing the story about I'm at the wee age of 7 years old, going to Lowell, Indiana, with you and your dad to watch Hoosiers.
Yeah, it's great. It's a great story.
Fun.
You guys know where to find us in social media: Facebook, Instagram, blah 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 blah. Like, subscribe, do all those other things. And we'll be back next week to talk about The Great Muppet Caper. And we'll be dropping the following theme next month's episode as well. As we start to trim the excellence and just get back to the two of us talking movies. So for another episode of Let's Talk About Flicks, I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
Thanks a lot, Lyle, for joining us. See you guys next week.